Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Argumentative Neighbors, a Meaningful Elaboration, a.n.i.m.e. Today we'll be discussing Death Note. Our topics will include the characters Light Yagami, L, Misa Amane, a.n.i.m.e, and Mello, important observations and happenings from early and late episodes, our favorite characters, how we each rate the show on a scale from 1 to 100, the differences between the anime and manga, and various quirks and inconsistencies we found in the series. Introducing the panel, first, from Palm Beach County, Florida, fan of 11 years, Christopher Davis. From Worcester, Massachusetts, fan of 10 years, Brett Morrison. And I'm the host, director, and editor of the show, Jake Rose, fan of 13 years, born here in Worcester, Massachusetts.
You owe Chris $5.
You do not owe Chris $5.
Light Yagami. I say he's insane and highly manipulative.
One example of Light manipulating another person is Light using Misa's insane crush on him, or Kira, to use her in her Shinigami eyes. I also believe that Light is overly drastic in his actions. I mean, there was the miniature TV and the bag of potato chips, which Ryuk had stated, I believe, cost a couple $100, which he ended up throwing away. There's also the exploding drawer and the magazines he hid in his room, just in case he was being watched.
A prime example of his insanity is his superiority complex. He often sees others as just slight entertainment and a challenge for him to overcome. He never believes himself to be bested in any manner. People are just pawns for him to use in his schemes, and challenges to roll over on his path to godhood. A bit over halfway into the series, after L's death, Light begins to make less calculated moves. He allows the SBK and his own Kira investigation team to slowly close in on him, making it quite obvious that he is in contact with Takada and Terumikami.
Even early on in the series, Light has no common sense. I mean, one quite easy measure he could have taken was to write his own name in the Death Note. At least then Ryuk couldn't have killed him. Speaking about the TV and the bag of chips, I just think there was, it was a very over-dramatic sequence.
I'll have a chip.
And eat it! Another over-dramatic moment is when Light hugs Misa. They have to repeat it twice. The third over-dramatic moment that I noticed was when Mikami was filling out names in the Death Note while he was yelling delete, delete, delete over and over again. After writing one name, he had to jump like 6 feet back for no apparent reason.
In many anime series, they extend a part of the manga to fill the 22-minute time slot. And prime examples of this in Death Note are the scenes in which Light is thinking. They exaggerate how quickly he can think and give him paragraphs of monologue when just seconds have passed. I wasn't looking there the whole time, but I liked what I said, so I don't care.
The main motivation is that he thinks the world is dark and it needs to be cleansed. Thus his idea to kill criminals.
Even though Light had been told by Ryuk at the very beginning of the series that Ryuk hadn't chosen him, he had just dropped the notebook and Light was the first one to pick it up. Light refers to and thinks of himself as a chosen one several times through the series. Hello, Light. I really did not like L's death in that it was so sudden and unexpected. Rem, the Shinigami, when it decided to kill L and Watery, there was really no way around it. There was no way it could be prevented, and L had no chance whatsoever.
While many characters in the Death Note world are either indifferent to Kira or worship him, L is very different in that he opposes Kira. However, he almost worships Light, by which I mean he views him as someone who, although he initially suspected of being Kira, comes to the realization that there's no possible way that someone so kind-hearted could fully consciously be Kira. Even when he, at first, uses strictly his logic to determine that this subconscious Kira theory is complete hooey, he later suspects that it was somehow past and that it wasn't fully Light's fault, whereas Light is the one who determines that it was his will, because L couldn't be indifferent on this because of his love for Light. As it relates to the whole Light-Kira dynamic, there's a scene in which L washes Light Yagami's feet, much like how Mary Magdalene washes the feet of Jesus with her hair. And now, Misa Amane. One question I had when I was watching the series was her death determined by her remaining lifespan, or those whose lifespans have been affected by the Death Note exempt from its rules? Because someone who knows that their lifespan has been added to or divided may act differently than if they hadn't known that. This may make them exempt from the rules, because I find it unlikely that Misa, who had all of Rem's lifespan and a quarter of Jealous's lifespan, would die just 3 to 4 years after her introduction to the world of this notebook.
A question I had while watching the ending credits was just how much time had passed after Light's death when Misa commits suicide. It shows Misa in the credits switch between Misa on the train and then on the building and Light dying. So I was wondering if Light and Misa's deaths were happening simultaneously, or if Misa looking older in the credits had killed herself like years after.
Nier, as a character, I think he puts more of a stronger presence than L does in the series. He takes more aggressive tactics to catching Kira than L did. Especially near the end of the series, when Nier takes a dastardly gamble in securing the Death Note, as well as if looking Kira straight in the face, in hoping that he did get the right Death Note.
Personally, I think that L was more aggressive than Nier. L, from the very beginning, was openly confronting Kira. There was the initial TV broadcast, which L used to reveal that Kira was indeed real. And then L kept being aggressive, slowly closing in on Light, and eventually they were freaking chained together for like a month. Personally, I just think that Nier is like a more inexperienced L, a weaker L.
And now Mello. When Mello was first introduced, he looked a bit girly, but as time goes on and the 3 years elapse, they give him a more respectable appearance. That sort of cool steampunk look that many anime characters have is bestowed upon Mello, and likewise, he's more important to the series with this improved look.
When most people think about Mello, they sort of downplay his impulsiveness as a negative. Though impulsiveness is not always a bad thing, because in the anime as it's portrayed, he sort of jumps the gun and saves Takada, which put a major setback on Kira's plans.
As a matter of fact, without this action, Nier wouldn't have been successful, because it wouldn't have been revealed that Teru Mikami's real Death Note was in his bank vault. Because when he goes to kill Takada, he reveals this actual note. And had Mello not done this, then L would have been successful in tricking Nier into swapping the wrong note. And now the panelists' favorite characters. My favorite character is Light. While I often like to take the road less traveled and pick a more obscure character in a series, Light definitely is my favorite in this series. When an anti-hero is the main character, it's just, in my opinion, a very interesting occurrence. The prime anime, which should be the measuring stick for all others, in my opinion, Dragon Ball Z, we see that Vegeta is never in the spotlight. and he's the anti-hero of that series. Here, Light triumphs over L. So, in that regard, Death Note is unique in this way because of Light, which is why he's my favorite character.
There are a variety of reasons. My favorite character is L. There are, certain similarities to me. I tend to overthink things and overanalyze everything. While he's a detective, he's not portrayed as, charismatic or overly friendly.
Why do I like Nier? Well, I'll tell you how it is. He's a pretty cool cat. I mean, how many detectives do you know that play with freaking toys while thinking how to capture a criminal? Not many. And they could be stacking up dice like castles, better than blocks.
A huge theme that I noticed in episode 1 was the theme of human curiosity. If it hadn't been for, seeing the Death Note fall to the ground in the schoolyard and having been curious what it was, he wouldn't have walked over to it or picked it up. If it wasn't for his curiosity, he definitely wouldn't have tried it.
In episode 2, the ICPO is introduced. I feel that they are very short-lived in that they're introduced early on and are dissolved as it relates to the Kira case early on as well.
I think that the show moved very quickly in the beginning episodes because during episode 2, they're introducing L as the antagonist, as the pursuer of Kira. During episode 3, I believe that Light moved too quickly when he changed the times of his dates. As soon as L suspected that Kira was a student, Light changed the times of death to make that conclusion look wrong. He acted too quickly and should have spread out the deaths so as not to arouse suspicion that he had access to the police database.
Also, Light is offered the deal for the Shinigami eyes in this episode. Basically, the whole series wouldn't have happened the way it did if he just got the deal here. In episode 26, I pondered why he didn't just kill Misa. I mean, I understand that she is an asset, but she's also a liability to him. It really isn't worth the risk, in my opinion, for him to keep her as his partner.
At the end of episode 36, I really think that Light shouldn't have announced his victory, just in case his plan didn't work. Back to you, Jake.
In regard to that, in the event that Light was discovered to be Kira by Nier, had he not announced his victory haphazardly, then he would have had the chance to argue that Mikami is insane. I mean, he was calling him God. He's clearly not right in the head. He lives a meticulous, planned-out life. He's not right. He's nuts. So, really, Light had a chance to not rot in jail or be executed based on the fact that the main evidence is Teru Mikami, who is off his fucking rocker.
It's funny how you said that. I don't know why.
The Death Note anime stays very close to the manga, except for these things. There's a slight difference in Light's behavior when he is discovered to be Kira at the end of the series. In the manga, he's more cowardly, where in the anime, he tries to recruit Matsuda as a follower, attempting to play on his sympathetic views towards Kira. In the manga, the pages of the Death Note are finite. Once they run out, they're out. But in the anime, the notes are portrayed to have an infinite amount of pages. Fucking phone book! And now just some random thoughts that really can't be categorized all that well. Was Ryuk's foretelling of his murder of Light a tradition amongst Shinigami, or was it a prophecy that came to pass? I've theorized that Takada was perhaps not originally intended to have a larger role in the series from her introduction as one of Light's girlfriends. I find it absurd that there's a video game for such a lackluster in terms of action series. I mean, what could the game possibly be like? You write the victims' names down? That's as cool as it could get, really. Press A to lie. I mean, come on.
Minions! One random thought I had occurred when we were thinking about the number of pages in the Death Note, how they were finite or infinite, and just one hypothetical thought: what would happen if you tried to recycle like the Death Note paper? Like, I don't know. Would it still be a part of the Death Note? Would anybody die with it? I mean, would that be a way to get more pages of the Death Note? You know, personally, I think that nothing really happened in this series except for the whole Yotsuba group arc, I guess, and Light being shot near the end.
I rated Death Note in 83. As a personal preference, I don't really much like crime dramas, but Death Note adds a spiritual trait to it, which makes it interesting.
I give Death Note an 85 because I believe it was well written, but it also had a heavy amount of filler.
And I rate Death Note a 92 out of 100 for reasons I've already explained. Namely, the unique aspect of the series with the anti-hero being the protagonist. And my problem is something I've also brought up earlier in this episode, where I discuss how the importance of several back characters is inconsistent. Thank you for watching episode 11 of a.n.i.m.e, and next time we'll be discussing this ugly yet beautiful world. Tune in.
Remember to like us on Facebook.
Follow us on Twitter.
And to subscribe to us on Blit TV.
Okay, there we go.